So there you go. Welcome everyone. We're glad to have you joining us once again this week. As many of you know, we do this each Monday at 10 o'clock, talking on various subjects related to business in COVID-19 world here in Dane County. So we're glad that you were able to find time to join us today. You know, business today is all about pivoting, and that's what we're going to be talking about, changing your business and getting ready for what's coming next. So one of those things that will be one of many things that we'll be covering today. So due to scheduling, we're going to shift things around a little bit, and Peggy's going to go right into our first main speaker, and we'll go from there.
Good morning, everyone. Hope you had a great weekend. I'm really excited to be able to spend some time with one of my favorite Madisonians. Deb Archer from Destination Madison is with us this morning. And before we get started, you know, I just want to say a very heartfelt thank you to Deb for not only being, I mean, she's an amazing person, but just a terrific champion for Madison, one of our hardest community leaders, in my opinion. And it's really important, I think, during this time, during COVID, when, you know, today, quite frankly, we don't have a lot of great things to share. We're all pivoting and finding a way. But I think it's important to take a time out and to say thank you to people who've helped us get to this far. I think Deb is one of those people who has really put Madison on the map. We hear all these awards that Madison receives, and I think a lot of those would not be possible without your efforts. And so I just want to take a time out from all the things going on, and a very heartfelt thank you to you from all of us for your love of Madison and your wanting to share it. And we're very grateful to you. So good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Oh, Peggy, that was so sweet. Thank you.
Well, we mean it. I know things are hard. We know they are for everybody. And I know for you, you know, it's a struggle. But it's really important that you hear our hearts on that one, because it's true. And you're one of my favorite people, and we're definitely going to do that coffee one of these days. I look forward to that. But early on, Deb, when we had one of our very first Zooms, I don't remember which call it was, but I asked you, at what point will you start planning events again? And this is back in March or April. And I'll never forget, I've been sharing your answer now for months. You said as soon as there's a vaccine. And it hit me between the eyes that we are in this for the long haul. And I kind of want to talk a little bit about that from a tourism and event standpoint. Where are we now, and what are the plans moving forward, if you can? Sure.
You bet, Peggy. And good morning, everyone. And thank you again, Peggy, for that very warm thank you. So in terms of the event industry, it truly is, for us in the Madison area, a vaccine will have to be in place, I think, before we will start seeing any sort of major events. Obviously, our entire country is a patchwork of restrictions. A neighbor of mine, I live in Cross Plains, is corporate director of sales at the Kalahari. They're hosting events of 200, 300 people. And their place was full this weekend. They were getting top dollar for their rooms. And 40 miles away, our hotels are very empty. We can not have indoor groups bigger than 10, outdoor 25 at private facilities. It's a different world. But what's really happened to meeting professionals, and Kevin, who works for Kalahari, admitted this too, there are a lot of groups that they'd like to think that they can keep planning events for the next 4 to 6 months, but it's really not practical, because even if they plan an event, they don't know how many people will come. Because what's really happened in the last 6 weeks is the sort of euphoria that things might be getting better became a reality when things opened up, and then the virus surged. And now traveler sentiment is waning. It has declined in terms of people thinking about traveling, planning traveling. And so to plan an event, you have to plan to have people there, or else it's not practical to put the resources towards building an event, planning it, etc. We have now essentially all events that we were working on for 2020 have either moved into 21 or 22 or canceled altogether. Our big hallmark events will take place next year, Ironman and CrossFit and some of the big ones. But some of the one-time events that we thought were going to occur are not going to occur this year. We have a few events for the first quarter of 21, but honestly, we just had 2 events last week that were planned for the first quarter of 21. Both get pushed back until later in the year. The Wisconsin Medical Society actually canceled altogether for April of 21. The Midwest Gay Bisexual Collegiate Conference that was scheduled for February has moved to October. So there is a sense from event professionals that planning for the first quarter of next year is not practical. It's because, again, they can't count on people being ready, willing, and able to travel. And the other piece of that plays into this, both for us as employers and businesses, but for event planners, is the fact that people don't know what's happening to schools. And so people's ability to leave home if their children aren't in school or have a more structured environment makes it also difficult to plan events because their personal lives are going to be interrupted depending on what's going on. So we are, our sales team that, is really in the sort of business maintenance business of trying to maintain our current clients, and then really building the pipeline and building relationships for future business. The other thing we're spending a lot of time are with local corporations, is trying to talk local corporations and making sure whatever events they are planning, they keep them here, so that we don't have American Family or CUNA or some of these other companies taking their businesses to other cities. We want them to keep their meetings here. It's very important. And I think it's a pretty easy conversation to have, but a lot of them are used to going to resorts or going, holding things elsewhere. And we really, really are trying to encourage local corporations to hold their business here. So those of you that know people, in different companies, that's a really important thing to pass along, is let's keep our business here. We need those dollars in our community. Conventions and trade shows will be the slowest to come back. Sports events may be a little quicker just because they tend to be more personal, particularly youth sports. There are sports tournaments happening in our state. I know the Champion Center in Fox Cities is hosting volleyball tournaments and soccer tournaments, and they are able to structure those in a safe way. And so our sports team is working very hard at being ready so that when our restrictions lift, that we can hold events here. But we all know that our restrictions are, we're very restrictive in Dane County. And so it's more difficult for us we can't host any events of any size or scale now for the foreseeable future. But our team, just so you know, all of us have been furloughed. We let 12 people go in March. We had 39, we're down to 26 staff, and we've all been furloughed between 10 and 60%. And just beginning next week, all our remaining staff will go to either 30 or 32 hours, but still not full time. We're trying to really measure the market, we want to be practical about investing those dollars and making sure we have lots for people to do. But our team is, we had a great call this morning. We do a call every week. And we were lucky last week, our International Trade Association had its annual convention, which is always on site virtually. And it was amazingly inspirational. It was, I think it gave all of us a boost. We had a lot of really smart people talking to us about the economy, different sectors of the industry. But this will be over at some point in time. I think the hard part for a lot of you, you're small business owners, you are, doing everything you can, baling wire and tape and everything else to keep your businesses going. And it's got to be horribly difficult. And, I wish we could do more in the meantime to put people in your businesses. But we're doing our best. The one thing we are focusing on are regional drive leisure market, because that's the one thing most of us as humans are willing to do at this point, is to drive somewhere, have a day or two, visit friends, visit family, go someplace we feel safe. We're trying to very much get the word out that this is a safe place to come, because we are so restrictive, that this is a safe place for people to visit. And people should feel good about bringing their families, eating outdoors. And then the big campaign we have at visitmadison.com on Facebook and Instagram is our Explore Outdoor Madison. There's so many fabulous things for people to do here when they come here that are outdoors. Every week for 8 weeks, we are bringing alive more iconic sort of itineraries. This week, I think the team goes to the Arboretum and somewhere else. Last week, it was Elver Park. We've been to the Sugar River. We're just really trying to give people safe and interesting and free things for people to do to explore Madison. So that's where our marketing team is. One of the things that we know is important is to keep the brand and the name of Madison out in the public. We have to keep that name out there. Social media is where all of our, almost all of our resources are, and public relations. We have 2 public relations people who are working with bloggers and travel writers to keep the Madison brand out there. That's really important. One of the things we learned last week that I was disappointed about was the State Department of Tourism has pulled back all of their out-of-state advertising. And I know there is a reason for that, but I'll tell you what, if I see one more Explore Minnesota ad on TV, it's gonna make me cry, because I know that there's no Wisconsin ad playing to my daughter's friends in Minneapolis. And we need that. And I'm actually gonna try to talk to Sarah Meany, the Secretary of Tourism, this week, because I think she needs help to get support to push that branding out there. It's just like Madison. We have to keep the word out there. We need the word about Wisconsin out there because our competition is out there, and we have got to keep positioning ourselves. That was a lot of information.
It's all good information.
I could talk forever about it.
That's what we love about you. No, it's all good information. And I think, since we are talking about the whole pivoting, I think keeping the brand alive. I mean, that's the very essence of branding, right? Is to continually keep it going. And social media is a real easy thing to do and a great way to do it. We do have a couple of questions, Deb, and I know we have just a little bit of time left with you before you need to head on to your next meeting. Do you know by percentage how many of the events that were planned for 2020 will come back in 2021? Have they moved dates, or have they moved on?
Of the, oh gosh, 2 weeks ago, I had the exact number. We had canceled 38 events, and I think 9 of them have booked for 21, and 2 or 3 more are out into the future. And there are a couple of events that we're still negotiating, finding dates and space. I think we'll capture about half of those. I think eventually the majority of them will come back, but it will be over time. One of the groups isn't going to come back till 2026. And this is sort of the universe we live in, which sounds ridiculous, but that is sort of our world.
Right. A lot of pre-planning. Question is, I'd be curious to know how you're addressing, Deb, the safety concerns people might have about coming to Madison. And you mentioned, we are one of the most restricted counties. What's your sense on how people feel?
I think it's a completely mixed bag about how people feel. I think that we are going to, let me start by saying this. We are one of the supporters of Dane County's Mask Up Madison campaign, and we're actually going to start running some of those messages. We want people to know that we encourage masking up in Madison, because we think that's a simple, easy way for people to understand that we respect ourselves, we respect you. And so we will be doing that. We also, we have talked to Bonnie at the health department about, I don't know if we'll do this or not. I really hope we do. I want to see us do this campaign that wasn't my idea. It was somebody on the team that superheroes wear masks. And I wanted to get, doctors and, other, first responders out there, these are the real heroes, but we all can wear masks. Our kids can wear masks and really have a fun way to show that this is the way we're living. And this is how Madison does things. And so we will be really pushing that out, that there's no right or wrong. We just know that we have to take responsibility, and this is how our city is taking responsibility.
Yeah. And we're on the same page because we had Bonnie on, we've had her on regularly. We had her on last week and we talked a little bit about it. And afterwards I messaged her and said, hey, how about some notables wearing masks and saying we're, Madison's masked up or whatever. She said she'd send it to her community people. So
I would love to do. I mean, I thought, do you get JJ Watt to pose with a mask, or some of local,
Bucky
not
Badger.
just local people, but famous people. That's right, Bucky, and that we make sure people know that this is how we're living.
Yeah. A follow up to that last question. Are you hearing anyone? And I mean, I think we all hear some, but is there more concern about public safety in Madison over COVID safety?
I certainly think that a couple of weeks ago, I mean, obviously it was horrible what we witnessed our city, after the George Floyd, which I don't think had anything to do with Black Lives Matter, but just the destruction that happened here. Yes, I think there is concern, but I think it's more us. I don't think it's people from out of town so much. I don't think, certainly there were messages that came out about Madison, but I don't think, we're not getting those. We have more people internally, even staff saying, oh, is it safe to come downtown? And I just said, I come here a couple times a week. I stay into the evening. I feel fine. But I think the perception is more amongst people who live here than people outside of our community.
And we see the change, we see the boards, and so that's a little intimidating. So I get it. Prior to COVID, I think it's important for people to understand the economic impact that Destination Madison has within our city. Not counting 2020, but prior to this, what has been the annual economic impact?
Thanks, Peggy. So visitors, in 2019, we got the 2019 visitor studies. Visitors, and this is actually spending that happens by visitors, was $1.4 billion in Dane County. Wow. And I think that the 1.4 billion, I think the piece, and you all, so many of you are aware of this, but so many people are not, is that our population of 575,000, we could never support all the businesses that you have or all the businesses that exist in this community and the attractions. If we didn't have 14 million visitors, some are day visitors, some are overnight, we wouldn't have the quality of life that we have. Visitors augment so much of our world, and there's never been a time when it's been more evident. I mean, just think the minute when that door dropped down on WIAA basketball in March, the dominoes started to fall. And the minute you had those events canceled, think of the thousands of people that one day were supposed to be here that weren't there the next day. And it is so dramatic and they're woven into the fabric of our everyday life, and we don't even realize it. And it's not just us, it's you. I always say in our world, what we do is an equation. We bring the visitors here, the businesses deliver the experiences, and it's us plus you equals a great experience. And it's a very interdependent relationship about welcoming visitors and keeping people here and to have good experiences. But it's a powerful industry, and we all are painfully aware now about what it means to our economy.
Mm-hmm. I've noticed, and I don't know if others have, but I've noticed what seems to be an increase in flights coming into Madison. Are you in contact with the Madison Airport or Dane County Airport to get numbers? Who are these people that are traveling and who's coming in?
Interesting. Yes, actually, there's a visitor information area across from the baggage claim that the airport actually contracts with us that we operate. Although we haven't been staffing it since March, we're actually talking about restaffing. Just so most of you know, I assume that flights declined very rapidly over the last few months. But we're starting to see an uptick. Actually, we just met with them last week. And right now, I think there are 18 arrivals every day now. And a couple of weeks ago, it was down to, I think, 13. So we're starting to see some increases, but the flights are not full. But I think they just added Boston and Portland back, which was really good news. I think that's a good sign because I think those are really business places that people are traveling. But the majority of the people traveling are visitors, are leisure travelers, or family, people visiting family that are starting to feel like it's safe to visit family. But we are nowhere near the volume of flights. And we can all, I think, assume that much of that has to do with Epic and the people that they're sending out, bringing back, recruiting, business people, training. That's also at a standstill.
Mm-hmm. I have heard from a number of friends who have had to travel, during this time, and certain airlines are better at that than others. But so some of that is going on, but it's good to hear that there are at least some visitors, family members coming in. Question is there a way to recapture some of the business revenue that has fallen off with events? Can those be done via virtual tools, or do you know if they are being done virtually?
We have not had a lot of the convention and conferences that were booked here go virtual. We are working, though, with Monona Terrace and the Alliant Energy Center and the concourse on creating hybrid events so that we can have, so event planners can have both. They can offer a virtual component and they can offer a live component, assuming that some people will attend in person and other people virtually. The question is really great, though, because that question of how do you capture the revenue virtually, that is, I would say, where a lot of professional event planners are spending their time right now. How do you get your sponsors? How do you get people? The convention we had last week, they had on both days, in the middle of the day, 2.5 hours, which were appointments with vendors, and vendors had to pay to have a slot to set up appointments with people who were attending the convention virtually. And then you would have sort of a matching that the buyer would meet with the supplier. So they figured out that was one way to capture some revenue. But we would love some ideas about that. But we're excited, particularly Monona Terrace has some really good technological capabilities about how we can offer hybrid events at Monona Terrace. And we think we can get the Alliant Energy Center, and the concourse, I know, is investing in some technology to do the same. And clearly we have all learned that there are a lot of new technology options and they will get better all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we have spaces available. I mean, I just learned of another one on the east side. Like, there's spaces available to do it safely. To have, they may be smaller, but they still can be done, and then add the virtual component, which seems to make some sense.
Yeah, and speaking of spaces, there are some questions. We're going to be talking to Bonnie this week because Monona Terrace has that beautiful rooftop. And they are under the restrictions right now that they can't have a group over 25 on their rooftop. But the Garver Feed Mill can have 250 people in their parking lot. Well, it doesn't make sense because Monona Terrace has turned away weddings and all these other things. And they have this beautiful space where clearly they could have some great events for 50 or 100 people on their roof. So we're trying to straighten that out because it doesn't make sense to not allow that business to happen if it can. So I know the county's done its best trying to create equity, and there are just some things there are cracks in the system, and we're trying to fix those.
Yes. Well, that's good, and it does make sense. It's outdoors, and their own statements is, say it's good to be outdoors, safer to be outdoors. So that would make sense. So, and hope that happens. Just two more questions for you. What are some things that that business owners can do to help tourism, to help you, to help the tourism, to help the energy level? We know it's gonna take time to get back to normal. What are some things in your view that we can be doing right now to help?
You know, the couple of things that come to mind right away are, we would love for you to push out these outdoor adventures that we have on our social media, for you to share those or push those out, because the more people that are reading about the things they can do in Madison, the better. The other thing would be, whatever safety protocols you have in place, is make sure you're sharing those, and also sharing the mask up message, so that you're pushing out the positive messages about things there are to do, or even yourself, if you're out doing things outdoors, to make that visible on your social media, and also about your safety protocols and your businesses, because that's the message that people really want to hear. I would say those are two really easy, quick things that could be done. And again, we have visitmadison.com. We're on Instagram and Facebook, but if you need anything, let Peggy know or let me know, and we'll make sure you find that out. The other thing is, if your businesses, some of you are partners of our organization, some of you aren't, that just has all gone away. If you have things you want to share about your businesses with us, please let us know. We want to make sure we're sharing everything we can about what people can enjoy, whether it's retail or food or a service that you offer. We want to make sure that we know about it. So please let us know. And my email is archer@visitmadison.com. Just archer@visitmadison.com.
Easy enough. I'll post that here in a bit. I know you need to get going to another meeting. And again, we can't say thank you enough for your time today.
You're welcome.
For all of your efforts. You're just an outstanding human being, and we're so grateful you're on our team. I know you have some good news though coming up. Would you care to share with the group?
Oh, it's just a personal bright spot, and some of you may have this, but we're expecting our first grandbaby any minute, any day. So we're very excited about that. So.
Yes. Well, congratulations.
Thank
We're
you.
excited
Thank
for
you.
you. I know we were trying to plan for the today, and we weren't sure whether it would happen or not. And secretly, I was hoping she'd have it this weekend. But you know what? Whenever it happens, we hope you enjoy it. We hope you look at this new baby as just a huge bright spot, and brings you lots of joy.
You're welcome. And I just want to say how terrific you all are. Peggy and Colin, thank you for this opportunity. And just thank you all for working so hard and weathering this really, really hard storm. So take care, everybody.
Thanks, Deb. We'll get there.
Welcome.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, Deb. We appreciate you helping us out.
You are welcome.
So we're going to pivot, as it were. I know you guys may be tired of hearing us say that on this on our webinar, and we've been talking a lot about it, but you just heard Deb kind of echo the same word, right? So pivoting. And so I just wanted to share, we shared it on the Dane by Local Facebook page, but I wanted to just, before we get to Ted talking about a PPP update, I want to just share a little bit of that article with all of you, because as I mentioned, when I heard Deb say back in March or April that they were planning for fall of 2021, I couldn't believe it. It really hit me, and I mourned a little bit, to be honest, and probably had a little pity party. Maybe some days even thereafter. The realization of it can often be overwhelming, and you feel like you're being forced to change and forced to pivot. And that's, it's never fun to be forced to do anything. But I think when we're looking at our businesses, I think we have to look at it as we do need to pivot, and pivoting is not bad. One example that I want to share is, if you guys have ever had a plan in place, whether it's for your business or personally, and something came along and for whatever reason, plan A was not going to work and you resorted to plan B. Maybe you bought a home and the deal fell through and you went with another home. It almost always, though, you sit there in this, in plan B, and you say, you know what, this is so much better than plan A. Why didn't we think of this sooner? And that's what pivoting is all about. Pivoting is not a root canal. It is just a mindset that you've got to do something different. If it works, great, keep it the long haul. If it doesn't work great, change it up. So I just want to offer a few nuggets for you. The first one is to stabilize yourself and to stay focused. One thing that I have implemented during COVID, and I actually steal this idea from my son-in-law, is I write everything down. What do I need to do today? I think my husband does this as well. Every night he writes down what he needs to do the next day, and that's your to-do list. So I have one for personal, one for business, and then another for a side business that we have. But it helps me keep my mind straight. I don't leave my desk until those things are done. Stay focused. Don't just look for the bright, shiny things in the sky and put out fires all day long. Stay focused. Remind your clients about the value of your business. And Deb makes a great point. Keep it social media. You've got to keep that branding going. You've got to remind people who you are and what you do and how you can help them through this process. Don't expect things to go back to normal anytime soon. Again, plan A was business as usual. We are now on plan B or plan C. And you know what? Tomorrow may be plan D. We go back to phase one, you're going to pivot again, and it's okay. Somewhere along those plans, you're going to find these nuggets that are going to work for you and your team and your customers. Prepare for the worst, but expect the best. And this is not just in your business, but from you and your team. A lot of times I feel like business owners forget that they're also community leaders. And the community is watching us. They're watching our mindset. They're watching how we handle this. I look at Deb Archer as a great example of this. She's being furloughed from a job she just absolutely loves, a city that she adores, and it is painful to her, but she's pivoting. She's finding a way, looking at all these positive things. She's a community leader, and a lot of times when I'm not feeling the best, I go to her Facebook page and I look at what she's looking at to get a little bit of zen. But, try and stay as positive you can for you, your team, and our community. And then one of the last things is to hit the reset button. It's okay. 2020 is now 2020.5. That's going to get us through to the end of the year. We've got the holidays in front of us, one of the most exciting times of the year. Look at your next plan is how are we going to do it? Don't look at it like there's an obstacle in the way. And then my 5.5, which is not in the article, and don't hate me for saying this, but you got to stop the pity party. I'm almost going to cry when I say that because I know how easy it is to get down about this. We all have had down days, but we have to stop it. We have to look at what's in front of us, the opportunity we still have. People want to buy online. Do you need to have an online component to your website, to your business? Can you sell off a Facebook marketplace? Can you do Shopify? What can you do to get yourself in position to have your best holiday ever? But the one thing that will not move your business forward is to engage in a pity party. You might have one for 5 minutes, enjoy a glass of wine with it, but you got to get over it because standing still isn't going to help us. So I share those things with you as someone who is here to help you. If you need ideas in your business, please reach out. My email is peggy@sbmbrands.com. I will brainstorm with you, come up with some creative ways. So let me know, let Colin know. We all know people. If we don't have the answers, we'll find them. So there, wanted to just share all that with you. We have Ted Gunderson from Monona Bank on, and I've asked Ted to join us. As some of you may have heard, we have a little bit of hopeful news with the PPP for those of you that have PPP loans. Ted, can you give us that update?
Okay, so a couple of things have happened here recently. There's been some legislation that came out. So the first thing is a couple weeks back on July 10th, the second round of the PPP was to expire, but they still had $132 billion left to disperse. So they have extended PPP now through August 8th. And so if you haven't gotten a PPP loan, you can still get one. Go to your local banker and start talking to them, but PPP funds are still available. My guess is if they haven't used it up by then, they'll just extend it until the money is gone. Second thing is they made 3 changes to the PPP program. One was extending the 8-week period to spend the money to 24 weeks. They changed the term on the loans from 2 years to 5 years, which I think is kind of irrelevant. And then they also changed the way you can spend the money. It used to be 75% had to be spent on payroll. They lowered that number to 60%. And that accounts for some businesses that have, let's say, high rent but low payroll. Like, for example, I know a coffee shop downtown that has pretty high rent but low payroll, and PPP didn't fit for them. The result of those three things in a nutshell is literally all these PPP loans will be 100% forgiven. With those changes in this, I really don't think that there's going to be much of any of those PPP loans that ultimately doesn't get forgiven. So that leads into the next change that is currently pending in Congress right now. Steve Mnuchin testified in front of the Senate. There's a Senate Bill 4117 that's out there having to deal with forgiveness. About 85% of all the PPP loans were under $150,000. And with these changes, virtually all of that, if not all of that, will be forgiven. The SBA had sent out some preliminary forgiveness forms, and frankly, the first one was 11 pages long that the borrower would have to fill out, and then the bank would have to process those, which we still don't even have procedures on how to process those and submit it to the SBA. So I think the bankers and the SBA have all gotten together and say this is going to be a lot of work to ultimately forgive all these loans. So it's pending in Congress right now, but it looks like there's support for this across the aisle. So stay tuned, but I wouldn't be surprised that in the next week or so, there'll be an enhancement that said any loan under 150 will be forgiven. My guess is the borrower will have to sign some sort of affidavit or something to that effect that they spent the money as it was prescribed, and will have to retain their records and file. So if that does pass, that'll save a lot of burden for the vast majority of the borrowers, and the vast majority of the bank's burden will be reduced by that. The final thing is that I also heard Mnuchin was talking about that there may be a new PPP program that'll roll out. That 8-week period was really kind of, I think, chosen because they thought we would be on the downside of this pandemic after 8 weeks. That obviously is not the case, so we're going to continue on. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the coming weeks there'll be a new PPP program. But Mnuchin has already said, and I think this is probably a better course of action, it'll be revenue-based, so not payroll-based. So, for example, if you were a restaurant and you were doing $500,000 a year in revenues and now you're doing virtually nothing, that's going to be the component that determines loan amounts or how that'll happen. Because there are quite a few businesses, you'd be surprised, that are actually thriving in this current economy. Will it last? I don't know, but you talk to some people like boat dealers or furniture stores, or I was golfing yesterday with a guy from Fiskars, and they said they're virtually corporate-wide out of lawn and garden tools in their retail outlets because people are spending the money on their homes. So some industries and some businesses are thriving, so their revenues really haven't decreased. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the next 30 days or so, there's going to be another sort of PPP program, but it'll be a different methodology. It'll be revenue-based rather than payroll-based. That's about it. Again, if you haven't gotten a PPP loan yet, reach out to your banker, and you can still get that. We're still approving them at our bank.
Thank you for that update. Lots of good things, and we'll hope that those are forgivable. That would be great. Before, Colin, I send it back your way for more updates, I did just get a message from someone who reminds us all that in this time of relaunch and reset, that Dane by Local is an invaluable tool, which of course it is. We all need support. We need to support local and each other so we all thrive. And I think that's a really great reminder. I think we all try to do that, but with all of the apps and everything that you can order of nowadays, it's so much quicker maybe to do it online. Just a reminder to continue to support each other's businesses as we move forward. Thanks, Colin.
Yeah, thank you, Peggy. Appreciate that. Appreciate you mentioning Dane by Local as well. There's certainly been a lot of activity that's been taking place with Dane by Local, and we have a few things coming up that might be of interest to you. And one of the things that we mentioned is preparing for the holidays, and a lot of effort needs to go into that, particularly this year. So for a lot of businesses, this holiday season is not going to be normal by any means. Even if we start to loosen some of the restrictions that we have here in Dane County, if we're in a stage 2 or stage 3, it's still going to have restrictions, and it's going to have an effect on traffic into businesses during the holiday, which is an important time of the year for many, many businesses. So we want to take a look at that. What can we do at Dane by Local to help businesses prepare for the holidays? And the time to do that is now. If you wait till September, October, it's getting awfully late to be able to prepare your business. It's something that is going to take a little while to prepare for that. So next week, Wednesday, which is July 29th at 10 a.m., we'll be doing a webinar that's specifically on helping businesses look at their websites and either improve or establish e-commerce on your website. So I know some of you, most of you probably do have a website. Some of you have product on your website, but you can't purchase through your website, or you've got the e-commerce set up, but it doesn't function right, or you don't like it, or it needs improvement. The list goes on and on. So we're going to have a couple of members from Dane by Local that will be joining us and talking about how to deal with your website, how to deal with e-commerce, and actually offer another opportunity that might be of even more interest to you as far as e-commerce is concerned in the months to come. In addition to that, then Dane by Local will make a commitment to all of our members in helping to promote your website and e-commerce on that program, on that website during the holiday season. So we'll be talking about that as well. So make sure to join us. Again, that's next Wednesday, July 29th, 10 a.m. There is a link on our website. If you go to the homepage down at the bottom, it's listed there, and you can set that up right away. You can set that up today if you want to. So you do want to make you aware of that to prepare for the holidays that are coming up. And again, don't procrastinate on this, because if you wait too long, it's going to be too late. It's going to take some while to get this all up and running. You know, now is the time to do that. The other thing that I want to mention, which are unrelated to the webinar for next week, is this week on Wednesday, and 2 days from now, Dane by Local is looking to retain a videographer. And essentially what it is we want to create some 3 to 5 minute videos of our members and use that during the holiday season. And so we're looking to hire a subcontractor, a videographer. So if you know of someone, or if you are one, and I know we've got at least 2 on the call right now, be sure to join us next Wednesday, 10 a.m. For that webinar to present what we want to do as far as the video is concerned, answer any questions you might have, and then we'll be asking for proposals from videographers to hire one of them to actually do the video for us. And again, we want to prepare for that well in advance. So again, if you know of someone, please have them join us. You do have to be a member of Dane by Local for us to hire you. But if you're not a member currently, we can work that out, obviously. So we'd be happy to do so. In addition to that, on Thursday, make sure I get my dates right here. I'm sorry, I got it flipped around. The videography meeting is on the 23rd. I'm sorry, that's Thursday. On Wednesday, we are also going to be improving our website. We want to make some adjustments to what we currently have. So we're going to do that on Wednesday. So if you are a web developer, we want to talk to you on Wednesday, 10 a.m. On Zoom. And Thursday is for the videographer meeting that we want to have. Sorry, flip those two around. So Wednesday, the 22nd, 10 a.m. for website, and the 23rd, 10 a.m. for the videographer. So we've got a few different things coming up as we are preparing for the holiday season, the all-important holiday season. It's going to be very, very challenging for all of us during that important time of the year. So please join us and take advantage of those services that we offer in the next little while here. I think with that, that's about all that we have at the moment. Peggy, did you have anything else that you wanted to cover at all? Did I miss anything?
I don't think so. I think we got it all.
Okay. Looks like we have a couple of comments in the chat. Was everything covered there that
Mm-hmm.
yeah, okay. All right. Okay, great. So thank you everyone for joining us. We'll be back again next Monday for our webinar and have a good week. Thanks. Take care.
Have a good day, everyone.